The definition of suffocation is a state or process being deprived of air, unable to breathe. It's the determination to survive that will guide how everything turns out. Whether you are willing to fight for the relief oxygen brings or allow yourself to be consumed by your surroundings is your choice. It's called the fight or flight method. Those who are determined will survive, and others who lack fall behind, at first slowly, then faster than you can inhale. When we are born, we are not taught how to breathe. We somehow just know. The survival instinct will kick in, and breathing is a task that's performed even when we are unaware of its occurrence. It comes easy, or at least it used to. August 29th, 2018 was the first time I lost my breath. All my life I'd known how to breathe, and suddenly my memory of it was gone. If I were asked to describe freshman honors English in any way, that would be exactly it. Suffocation. It was sure one hell of a year, being drowned in schoolwork and responsibility, but sometimes all it took was taking a step back and learning how to breathe again. Unlike breathing, there are certain things that we need to learn to do, like swimming. You can't just throw someone in the water and expect them to float. It's a learning curve. I stick by myself when I say that throwing an incoming high schooler into an advanced class with no instruction is close to punishment. Up to this point, Mr. Ricardo is the only teacher I know that would force his students to write a reflection on a website that he wrote with absolutely no instruction given but the due date. I think I can say that on behalf of all freshmen, we were scared shitless. Everyone in that classroom was the same. We struggled together and succeeded together. I began to understand how I needed to dive a little deeper and uncover the meanings to even the simplest of things. Everything had a story, and at the time it seemed pointless, having to analyze how a pair of shoes got to the side of the street, but eventually it all began to make sense. Any student in this class understands the horror of having to turn in their first portfolio. 400 points and one shot to make it right. Holden Caulfield and the narrative testing my limits. Quarter 2 came and I was in a good place for a while, but suddenly I was hit with a wave called Julius Caesar. I was sinking fast and quizzes came out of thin air. The mighty elevator pitch took its toll on me, stressing me to the max, but who knew talking about string cheese for 3 minutes could get you a good grade. Quarter 2 was when I began to venture out and learn to take my own path. Sometimes other classmates would swim ahead, leaving me behind in the currents, but I began to learn that it's okay to travel at my own pace and find my own writing path. As one Neil Perry once said,
I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life.
I'll second that.
To put to rout all that was not life, and not when I had come to die, discover that I had not lived.
80 feet deep in pure darkness, nothing guiding me but a flashlight. If you want to experience testing your limits, a night dive is the way to go. Quarter 3 was my night dive. There was no calm in the center of the storm, just pure chaos. My mind itself got darker as unmotivated habits took over. I was deep underwater, beginning to lose my breath, and for a while I was okay being like this. It was a huge slap in the face, for I knew this wasn't who I was as a student, and all it took was a whopping 40% on a Shakespeare quiz for me to realize I needed to get my life together. I am convinced that the timing was right. They say that everything happens for a reason, and maybe my unmotivated habits are what caused me to excel in poetry. Finally, my stress levels peaked. The slam poem. The chance to prove how reaching your limit can unleash success. I learned that eventually we would be represented with words other than good, but for now we were expected to be good, which had to be good enough. As a class, we used to be in unison, but now everyone decided their own path and followed their own light beam towards success. There were times on my journey where I began to run low on air, but remembering the importance of breathing, I became extremely conservative of what I wasted my breath on. Debates began to pile upon each other, and soon I was required to voice my opinions and make analysis on absurd stories from Greek gods and make real-life connections that made absolutely no sense. Quarter 4, I finally caught up to the speed of my mind and gained a better control over my breath. This was my rest stop, a time to allow all the stress composed inside of my mind to find its way out the door. I remember being told how much I was going to improve as a writer throughout the year, but I never listened. Turning around, taking a step back, and looking at everything in my past, I see the waves that once consumed me that still crash, but this time their victim is elsewhere. Here I am, surrounded by all that was once part of me, but it's finally still. So maybe through everything I did learn something. through the exaggeration of innocence, exploiting the proper ways to eating string cheese, to delivering a slam poem literally no one remembers, and even writing an extremely tedious research paper, have all compiled on top of each other to teach lessons in which I never thought would be useful. Freshman honors English has taught me to dive deeper, to uncover an uncommon meaning to the most simplest of things. I have learned that writing my words on paper translate them into a world I never knew was possible. I made it to the surface, barely in one piece, but I made it. I transformed myself from a naive 8th grader entering high school to the, as I would like to call it, more advanced individual I am now, and part of me has Mr. Ricardo to thank for that. Sure, maybe a few times my feet were kicked from beneath me and I sank under, but here I am, taking a step back, finally learning to breathe again.